In the year 2077, the virtual game apocalypse became a reality. 100. Civil order collapsed and the world descended into a living hell. Amid the chaos, humans awakened supernatural abilities. Even in this ruined world, Jiang City's richest playboy, Yi Xiao, continued to protect Qin Yanran with unwavering attention. Yi Xiao reassured Yanran, explaining that he had spent a fortune hiring 10 experts to train her and secure the very best support. He spared no expense, exhausting his wealth to acquire a divine artifact specifically for Qin Yanran. Any opportunity or piece of equipment that appeared, Yi Xiao immediately delivered it to Qin Yanran. Thanks to his efforts, Qin Yanran rose to become a god-tier powerhouse in Dragon Country. On this day, Yi Xiao and Qin Yanran were scheduled to be wed. The crowd envied them, calling them a match made in heaven and longing for a rich, devoted partner like Yi Xiao. Others muttered that meeting such a man was nothing but a dream. Yi Xiao then asked Yanran if she would marry him. Qin Yanran refused outright. A shocked gasp rippled through the crowd. Yi Xiao stared at Qin Yanran in disbelief and asked why she would do this. Qin Yanran accused him, questioning whether he really believed money could buy her true feelings or that gifts and equipment could morally coerce her heart. She snapped that he was wrong. Accepting his gifts did not mean she accepted his affection. She was not that cheap, and everything she had achieved had come from her own hard work. She declared that the only person who truly understood her struggles was Zhou Hong and announced she would give her heart to him, taunting that by being with Zhou Hong she could hear Yi Xiao's heartbeat every day. Enraged, Yi Xiao lashed out, insulting her as trash and telling her to die, then claimed that everything she owned was now his, laughing cruelly. He seethed, thinking of Qin Yanran. He had sacrificed everything for her with all his heart, and in the end she had betrayed him. He felt his heart turn to ash and wondered in despair whether this was how it would all end. A hollow certainty settled over him. He felt as if he no longer had a heart at all. Refusing to accept defeat, he vowed he would not let the story end this way. Anger flared. He refused to be passive. He swore to make them pay, to take revenge, to ensure those despicable people would suffer the price of their betrayal. A voice snapped at Yi Xiao, scolding him as if he were deaf and asking whether he had heard anything at all. She told Yi Xiao that she did not need his paltry money, insisting she had accepted it only to spare his pride, and warned him bluntly that if he kept clinging, he should never come looking for her again. A sudden memory hit him. This was reincarnation. It was a week before the apocalypse event, and a card held 200,000 yuan. Qin Yanran's monthly allowance. He realized he had truly been reborn and recalled the mental torment of taking her money. Classmates had labeled him a gold digger, but he insisted he had done it entirely for her own good. A sneer cut through the tension, asking whether he was already regretting his actions. Her retort was fierce. The notion that he acted for his good was intolerable. She'd rather go to hell than accept that explanation. He blinked in stunned disbelief at her reply. She spoke with bitter sarcasm, claiming it must have been so hard for him, and vowed she would never give him anything again. Her voice trailing into a furious accusation. Accusing him of another petty trick, she conceded begrudgingly that since he had come all this way, she would reluctantly accept his card this time. She ordered him to leave immediately, her demand sharp and uncompromising. She warned Yi Xiao angrily that he would regret speaking to her that way, the threat ringing with promise of consequence. Suddenly remembering a final detail, she pointed out that the shoes he wore were ones she had bought and demanded he remove them before he left. She spat at Yi Xiao, furious and contemptuous, telling him not to mistake his meager money for power and making clear that it would never force her to yield. She reminded Yi Xiao of what he had done that day, insisting that even if he later knelt and begged she would never acknowledge him. That, she said, would be a mercy, and she begged him never to show his face before her again. He brushed her off, saying he had more important things to do than waste on her, because the apocalypse beta would begin in 1 week. He planned to wait for the test, knowing that during the first 10 minutes of the beta the game's recharge system would behave differently. He admitted he had to collect enough funds before the test began, urgency tightening his voice. A caller teased that it was the legendary romantic and asked why he was calling, then abruptly offered Yilin what she'd always wanted, her shares, 20 billion in a single payment. Would she take them? The caller, incredulous at the chance, confirmed he had heard correctly and demanded 20 billion, not a cent less, ordering all paperwork completed within 5 days and the funds transferred to his account. He was confident Miss Lin's skills would make that simple. She accepted without hesitation. 20 billion it would be. She crowed that Yi Xiao had finally decided to hand the Yi Corporation over to her, then laughed and told him to stop stalling and call when everything was ready. He resolved to wait for the apocalypse beta to arrive, vowing that in this life he would climb to the throne alone. 1 week later, the game welcomed him into its beta. He had gained special beta access. The test would last 3 days, and after that the public version would launch. He felt that familiar surge again. This was it, the starting point of the apocalypse game. The apocalypse game began. He was logged in as Knight Xiao, and he hesitated over his class choice. He remembered that in his last life a guild had been wrecked by a god-tier beast tamer commanding a dark abyss dragon. Beast Tamer it would be again. This time he had no shortage of money or resources, so he chose the Beast Tamer path. He laughed. Then came the most important moment, the top-up. The recharge went through, 20 billion gold coins were credited to his account. He was elated. The system promised that within 3 days those coins would multiply tenfold. A system alert announced he was the first player to recharge over 1 billion, unlocking a unique hidden profession reward that began merging automatically, leaving him momentarily stunned. The notification confirmed he had obtained a second profession, wealth. He reacted in disbelief. Had spending so much actually unlocked a hidden profession? The system had bestowed a god of wealth class. An unexpected voice expressed surprise that a young brat had been the one to unlock it. He wondered where the frog had come from. The creature declared itself insolent, introduced itself as Ebisu, the wealth mentor, and announced that he would be the 709th god of wealth under its training. He scoffed at the idea of a toad serving as a wealth mentor, mocking it as if it were selling financial products. The mentor vowed to show the brat what real wealth was. The narrator laid out the wealth god's innate talents like a dossier. The simplest was a passive fortune generator. The coins the god carried increased by 1% each day, a steady, compounding flow of money. Another trait made the god obsessively frugal. On death neither gold nor items would be lost, ensuring wealth never slipped away. There was an aura of uncanny luck tied to money itself. Great riches came with extraordinary fortune. Generosity altered perception too. The god's charm was so potent that even the plain became striking, a flat bonus of 50 to charisma. Most absurd of all was the deity's transactional divine power. For every 1 million gold coins spent, the god gained 1 random attribute point, up to 100 points per day. The list read like an exploit, each ability harmless seeming on its own, together overwhelmingly powerful, and left the narrator momentarily incredulous. It made sense why this was a hidden class. The list of innate talents was unnervingly long. Observers dismissed them for lacking direct offensive power, failing to grasp the point. The talents were not about combat. Any single trait could funnel massive wealth, and combined they formed a system designed to amass resources and influence on an absurd scale. Those who didn't see that missed the real danger. This class turned economy into dominance. He ran the numbers and the revelation hit. With 2.2 billion in hand, a daily 1% increase translated to 22 million extra gold every day. On top of that, the god's spending converted wealth into power. Every million spent yielded a random attribute point, which in his case would produce 22 free points each day. The narrator emphasized the implication. Steady income and automatic stat gain together made for a terrifyingly efficient progression, turning passive fortune generation into relentless personal advancement. He cursed at how absurdly overpowered the wealth god class was. In his last life he had squandered everything on Qin Yanran, and now, reborn as a wealth god, he vowed to demonstrate the true force of money. Furious at a brat nearby, he demanded to be put down immediately. The game heralded his arrival at the 9527 newbie village, and with a golden finger advantage in hand, he refused to wait to grow stronger. Impatient and determined, he headed straight for the newbie village. He stepped into the 9527 newbie village's flower plains and immediately sensed a fresh server. The area was nearly empty. The sparse population meant one thing, the perfect opportunity to level up fast. He reminded himself that starting as a beast tamer was far tougher than other classes. Early on he couldn't tame powerful beasts, so he needed a clear strategy to grow quickly. His character read Yi Shao, a unique class wealth god doubling as a level 1 beast tamer with 0 progress. His basic vitals were low and simple, 100 points of HP, MP, and hunger, and his core attributes were all average, while luck and charm stood unusually high at 50 each. His innate talents revolved around wealth and fortune, granting relentless money gains, extreme thrift, extraordinary luck, unmatched charm, and the nascent power of the wealth god. He had no equipment, no skills, no items, and only 222 gold. Choosing Beast Tamer had been reckless. He didn't even start with a weapon, but he believed Beast Tamers held the greatest potential and room for explosive growth. He fell silent for a moment, a brief questioning sound escaping as he sensed something unexpected. A goblin warrior, an elite at level 5, caught the scent of human flesh and reacted with hungry instinct, drawn by the promise of meat. Panic flared. Facing a level 5 elite felt like a cruel stroke of luck. He cursed his misfortune and wavered between fighting and fleeing, caught in a frantic decision. Realizing the creature moved with alarming speed, he dismissed indecision. Naked, unarmed, and up against an elite foe, there was only one rational choice: run. He shouted desperately for food, ordered the fleeing figure to stop, cursed in panic, and begged anyone nearby to save him. At last he reached the main city, relief flooding him after a narrow escape at the start. he had almost died and had never felt such humiliation. Onlookers reacted with incredulous laughter when someone chose Beast Tamer, mocking that the player's beast was a toad and jeering that he, and even his family, were toads. They laughed at the Beast Tamer, scoffing that he had tamed a toad, and taunted him to buy a proper beast egg from the city's vendors, dismissing him as a brat. He refused to settle for an ordinary beast and demanded to know what they wanted in return for their taunts. Someone urged him to follow, claiming to know a hidden dungeon where a god-level beast egg lay nested in a dragon's lair. They questioned his sense in heading to the Supreme Hall at level 1, arguing that only players above level 100 could hire guards there. He cut them off, insisting he knew what he was doing and pushed them to move on. He called out for them to wait. A guard warned the young man that the Supreme Hall was beyond him, telling him to return after more training and explaining that only a recommendation letter from the city lord could open the hall's doors. He noted the Grand Archmage was level 80, which explained the hall's imposing grandeur and why even the guard was a level 80 Archmage. He addressed the Archmage, admitting he had no recommendation letter. The Archmage told him to leave, declaring the Supreme Hall the Empire's pride and not a place for someone like him. He replied that although he lacked a letter, he had heard the Archmage recently lost something and had come to return it. The Archmage asked what he meant and warned him not to try to fool anyone, when someone else suddenly urged the Archmage to look over there. The Archmage reacted in surprise at the sight of scattered gold coins. A voice pointed out even more coins behind the Archmage, drawing attention to the growing pile. They asked whether the Archmage liked the coins and marveled aloud at the discovery, unable to hide their astonishment. In the VIP room of the War God Pavilion's Supreme Hall, someone requested to be taken upstairs. They cleared their throat and confessed they had liked the master's earlier fierce demeanor, asking him to bring that same intensity back. A man coughed and told the young man to go upstairs. Watching the scene, he relaxed into a pleased chuckle. This, he thought, was more like it, and mused that money really worked wonders. A list of hireable guardians caught attention. The Supreme Hall offered exceptionally powerful golems, including a top-tier guardian around level 100 and a strong level 80 option. The hall's reputation proved justified. One could hire a level 100 protector and dominate a novice village, but the speaker dismissed those choices as uninteresting. Someone demanded to know who had let them all into the room, the question sharp and immediate. A berserk blood warrior announced he needed to hire a divine-level golem guardian. Others reacted in disbelief. Divine-level golems were extraordinarily rare, so how could one possibly be available for hire? Another observer pointed out the facts plainly. Given his current stats, an 80-level guardian would already be more than sufficient. Affording a divine-level golem, they added, was beyond his means. The price was stated without hesitation, 1 billion per day. Hearing 1 billion, one person balked and called it practically impossible, though they admitted rules were ultimately set by people. Then, almost casually, they mentioned knowing a divine-level spellcaster who might help, a startling prospect, since that spellcaster represented a hidden, exceptionally rare class. They explained that divine-level spellcasters combine protection, defense, and offense in one incredibly versatile package, and that hiring one from the start would be an excellent choice. Agreeing to proceed, the speaker said they could summon the caster at any time but needed to confirm payment. When would the 1 billion be paid? They proposed signing the contract immediately and promised to pay whenever required. He confirmed there was no problem and said that, once the contract was signed, he would summon them immediately. The other person relaxed. The sooner the better. Time was tight and the schedule unforgiving. Someone sneered and demanded to know which brat had contracted them, incredulous at how quickly it had all come together. She introduced herself as Dolores, a divine-level spellcaster, and declared that the contract bound her to obey orders for the next 24 hours. The system tag confirmed her name, but her level and other details were unreadable, far too high to be viewed. She asked what he needed and promised to handle everything, then paused briefly, a flicker of uncertainty passing across her face. He greeted her politely and explained he had hired her to tackle a supposedly very difficult problem, though he immediately wondered what real danger could hide in a novice village. Perhaps a goblin king or even his entire clan, he suggested, but he dismissed them as trivial. All of it would fall with a mere wave of his hand. Impatient, he urged them not to waste any time and handed the task over to her, calling it easy and telling her to lead the way. Everyone froze at the numbers flashing over the combatants. Those damage values were absurd. Murmurs of stunned confusion rippled through the crowd, as if the enemy's stats had somehow been exposed. He shouted orders to destroy them, to eliminate every goblin. They had nearly killed him earlier, and he wanted revenge. Onlookers could hardly believe what they saw. The man was partnered with a spellcaster, and the damage numbers were outrageous. It didn't look like a normal caster. No level was displayed. Some whispered about hacks, then dismissed the idea as impossible. Instead they concluded it must be a high-level NPC hireling. The spellcaster remained an unnerving, unanswered question. A triumphant system chime announced that he had reached level 10. The notification stated he gained 10 attribute points to allocate, then immediately flagged him as the first player in Novice Village 9527 to hit level 10, granting another 10 points. The global alert followed. He was the first player worldwide to reach level 10, rewarded with 50 bonus attribute points and the honorary title, Speed Ascender Kid. The narrator noted the shock. He had vaulted to level 10 while most other players hadn't even broken level 5. A world broadcast proclaimed that the player Night Sorrow had reached level 10 and unlocked the level leaderboard, and the announcement spread like wildfire. Fellow players gaped that it had not even been a full day and someone was already at level 10. Rumors and stunned whispers tried to identify Night Sorrow. Some swore it was that person, others called them absurdly overpowered. Speculation ran rampant. Was this a developer testing the game? Many felt an urge to latch onto the newcomer's success, scrambling to follow while wondering if it was already too late. He welcomed the doubt. In his private certainty he knew others could not yet see the truth. When the game's doomsday came to pass, everyone would recognize him as the true god. That conviction was enough. With the level-up attribute points and another 100 points he had obtained by spending 1 billion through the wealthy power mechanic, he judged it time to move toward their real destination. They pushed onward through the expanse, and he felt the distance keenly. He wondered, internally and with a flicker of disbelief, whether this remote place was the hidden dungeon he'd been told about. He confirmed without hesitation that this was indeed the Dragon's Lair and steeled himself. The Dragon's Lair was where he would go next. The world-level leaderboard displayed the top spots. Night Sorrow occupied first place at level 10, while the second and third ranks remained empty. A system note clarified that level 10 was the minimum required to appear on the leaderboard. He had been hunting elite monsters since entering the game yet was still only level 3. Spotting a player already at level 10 made him suspect an exploit. The name Stealthwalker meant nothing to him. He had never heard of that handle before. The presence of another powerful rival quickened his pulse. The prospect of a strong contender sparked genuine excitement. A system alert announced he had entered a hidden zone, the Dragon's Lair, and warned it was extremely dangerous, urging immediate retreat. He froze at the overwhelming aura. How could a dragon be here? Others realized this was a concealed dungeon and one of them demanded to know how the boy had even found it. He admitted he wasn't confident he could handle a dragon alone and refused to be reckless enough to fight it outright. Still, he resolved to go in and take a careful look first. Someone recounted a grim legend. Years ago a level 100 berserker had accidentally triggered a hidden quest to explore the Dragon's Lair and discovered the entrance was concealed within the Novice Village. Nobody believed him. They deemed it impossible for a high-level dungeon to exist there, so he ventured in alone and never returned. Then they turned to the boy and asked how he had known. He revealed that he had purchased the berserker's battle footage at great cost and, upon viewing it, found clear evidence of a rare dragon egg hidden inside the dungeon. One voice scoffed at the idea of stealing a dragon egg, insisting it was far harder than killing a dragon and asking if the kid was joking. He repeated his disbelief when the kid confirmed the plan, unable to accept that anyone would actually try to steal a dragon egg. He then turned to Sister Tao and, half teasing, half earnest, reminded her that she was a god-tier sorceress and urged her not to be so modest. Someone pointed out the obvious. It was a dragon, and a dangerous one at that. They noted that Sister Tao, the renowned god-tier sorceress, could probably fell that beast in seconds, if only the situation were that simple. An ability was invoked, a holy, radiant judgment known as the Radiant Dragon, an overwhelmingly powerful, rare tier 5 skill whose sheer presence made the group falter at how dangerous the foe truly was. One of them volunteered to wait outside the cave while the other went in first, announcing relief that a teleport scroll had been brought along. Hearing that it was a tier 5 dragon, the speaker nervously asked Sister Tao whether they could possibly manage the raid. They recalled how a mere tier 3 dragon could lay waste to an entire guild, and realized this radiant dragon ranked among the top-tier beasts. With their odds calculated at less than 1%, fear tightened the group, yet that only made the dragon egg seem more valuable. One member felt a fierce, solitary determination. He had to get it. Another member flatly refused to participate and announced his intention to leave, even when offered extra pay. He promised double the commission, then admitted that doubling the fee still wouldn't change the truth. It wasn't about money, they simply couldn't beat the dragon. Someone countered that they weren't meant to defeat the beast outright, only to buy time. The rebuttal came swift and grim. There was no way to buy time against a tier 5 radiant dragon, because no one could withstand its power. Desperation pushed a voice to up the ante, triple the commission, trying to bribe courage out of fear and math out of impossibility. Faced with the escalating stakes, one person swore under his breath and resolved that if his life had to be risked, so be it, he would take that risk. Finally, someone declared they would go all out, promising to hold the dragon off for at most 3 minutes, 3 crucial minutes to buy the rest whatever slim chance they could. Bright notifications announce instantaneous blessings. The god of life has doubled their life, the god of strength has doubled their strength, and the god of agility has doubled their agility. The protagonist beams at their reliable master as powerful buffs kick in, a reminder that careful preparation is essential for surviving this world. The narrator notes the enhancements will last 3 minutes, leaving the outcome to the character's actions. Onlookers are impressed, calling the sorceress god tier and terrifying in her power. A skill called Ice Arrow is readied, a simple but sharp ability primed for the encounter. They creep forward with a single urgent thought: if the creature notices them, they're as good as dead. With only 90 seconds remaining on the buffs, the protagonist feels their energy drain and warns that their stamina is fading. The dragon egg proves heavier than expected. The protagonist asks the toad for help and admits they've never done anything this shady before. A sudden sharp cry breaks the tense silence as someone flinches from a painful jab. One voice lashes out at the toad, berating it for incompetence and ordering everyone to stop talking and run. Panic and anger crack the air. Desperation turns into a plea. They call for Sister Tao to throw up an ice wall and buy them cover. They watch helplessly as the ice wall begins to fail and admits it can't hold. Someone unleashes a devastating technique, Dragon King's Breath, and screams for everyone to run, the move radiating destructive force. A frantic exchange follows. One person wonders why Sister Tao is running too, and she quickly explains that of course she's running. She isn't invincible and had warned the buffs would only last 3 minutes. A raw cry of pain cuts through the chaos as someone is struck, the moment underscoring how close they came to disaster. After the chaos settles, they realize it was a narrow escape but declare that, despite everything, they managed to secure the egg. An older voice consoles the younger one, saying that if this egg hatches into a tier 5 dragon, all the risk and effort will have been worth it. Someone reminds the protagonist not to forget their commission. Their favorability with Tao Lisi has increased to 60, and they are assured payment will follow. With the egg secured, they prepare to contract the beast, nervously hoping it won't hatch into something unexpected, otherwise the promised 300 million will be wasted. A companion mutters that they're jinxing the outcome, and the group exchanges tense, anxious banter. Everything hinged on this moment. Success or failure rested on a single decision, and they silently pleaded with themselves not to be disappointed. They emitted a string of startled, breathy noises, followed by a sharp, puzzled intake of breath. They realized it didn't look like a true radiant dragon hatchling. The color was wrong, and they reeled at the thought: had the radiant dragon been cheated on? Soft gasps escaped them again, ending in an uncertain hum as confusion settled in. It didn't present as a light radiant dragon hatchling. The hue seemed slightly off, and they couldn't shake the uneasy suspicion that the light radiant dragon had been cheated on. There was no nickname yet. The being revealed itself as the Azure Sky Dragon, a mythical tier creature at level 1 with 0% progress. Its baseline stats were immediately intimidating: Strength 500, Constitution 500, Agility 500, Spirit 500. As a mythical tier entity, it carried an inherent absolute suppression. Lower tier foes were crushed by its presence, suffering a 30% penalty to the damage they dealt and a 30% penalty to the damage they received against things of its tier. As the Dragon King, the Azure Sky Dragon reigned supreme over its own kind. It dealt 50% more damage to other dragons and took 50% less damage from them. Its mythical bloodline granted an exceptionally sturdy physique and universal stat gains on level up, while passive regeneration was absurdly high, 200 HP per second and 200 mana per second, along with effective HP and mana bonuses of plus 100% each. When its skills were examined, the scope of its power left observers speechless. Its earth-shaking roar was a crowd control masterpiece, a thunderous group stun that froze all creatures within 20 meters for 1.5 seconds, with a 30-second cooldown and a brutal 2000 mana cost, an ability that made its dominance feel unassailable. Witnesses could only think how broken these stats were. Its single-target breath attack burned a locked victim with true damage equal to 500% of its strength. The strike could not be dodged, cost 1000 mana, and refreshed every 5 seconds. Finally, its ultimate, Dragon King's Wrath, was a unique, uncontrollable talent. The dragon plunged into a berserk fury, dealing massive true damage based on its strength and constitution to every creature within 50 meters. The price was existential. The skill had a 30-day cooldown, and once used all of the dragon's stats would permanently decrease by SX, after which it would collapse into a 5-day slumber. At level 1 the hatchling already showed 500 strength. With only basic gear equipped, its breath attack punched through more than 2500 damage. No one present could imagine surviving that blow. The onlooker told the kid he had struck gold. The hatchling's stats were absurd, and its growth potential seemed boundless. If it matured, its destructive power would be unimaginable. He admitted he hadn't expected such strength. Noting the hatchling's gray coloring, he affectionately nicknamed it Little Gray, and the creature answered with a triumphant roar, earning an amused, surprised reaction from the group. One of them thought that with that little companion, no one would mistake him for someone else's pet anymore. His attention then snapped to Toad, who was holding something curious, and he asked what it was, suspicion and curiosity sharpening his voice. Wibbies bristled at the nickname, insisting his name was Wibbies, not Toad, and then his gaze fell on the object in Toad's hand. He frowned. It looked like a badge. They demanded to know where Toad had found the badge and ordered him to hand it over. Toad claimed he had simply picked it up in the dragon's nest. The room went cold as someone whispered the possibility. Could this be the Calamity Tier Mark of Ferocity? They examined the item and realized its name and rarity, the Mark of Ferocity, a Calamity-grade relic. It noticeably boosted base stats and granted substantial flat increases. Its passive turned every skill into a critical strike, massively raising crit rate and crit damage. Its active, a devastating massacre, could convert an enormous portion of spirit into true damage, came with dramatically increased critical chance, and even converted excess crit chance into extra crit damage. It carried a small chance to instantly kill and would guarantee death for targets below 20% HP, though it came with a 10-day cooldown. The group recoiled at the numbers, Calamity Tier beyond doubt. Voices rose demanding the badge back. One man protested angrily that he had risked his life to retrieve it. One of them exploded in accusation, blaming the other for risking everyone's lives since they had nearly died because of him. Demanding compensation, he snatched the item and declared he would borrow it for now. The owner refused outright, setting a hard price, 10,000 coins a day, or no deal. The borrower protested, pleading with familiarity and calling him Old Wibbies, insisting they were friends and money shouldn't matter. He tried charm and flattery, then accused the other of hypocrisy. When he was needed he was Old Wibbies, but when he wasn't needed he was treated like a toad. The tone was equal parts pleading and resentful. He laughed aloud. Now that he had the badge, grinding goblins would be effortless, farming them would be like slicing through butter. A system notification cut through the banter. A hidden quest called the Forbidden Adjudicator had been triggered. Its terse instruction explained that the mighty king of ferocity had been devoured by the abyss and that whoever bore the mark of ferocity must seek the truth, specifically, to find the Fong of Ferocity. The group froze, puzzlement and excitement colliding. Someone voiced the obvious question, wondering what the Fong of Ferocity actually was. They learned that the Fong of Ferocity was a god-tier assassin's dagger, forged from the fangs of an abyssal beast and famed as one of the most explosively powerful weapons. The mark and the Fong seemed linked, which thrilled them, but the Abyss continent lay far away, and reaching it would be a long, perilous journey. Another system alert announced that Yzayad's daily play time had been exhausted and that he would be forcibly logged out in 3 minutes. Yzayad groaned at the timing. His session was over, so he had no choice but to log out. He muttered that no one had expected a hidden dungeon in a starter village to take so long, then told Peachy's sister he was leaving. He asked her to contact him if anything happened and reminded her to have her coins ready. They exchanged quick goodbyes. He left, the tension and promise of future trouble hanging in the air. He noted that the Doomsday game was still in beta and had not fully merged with reality. He told himself to rest, warning that his body might start breaking down if he pushed too hard. The next day, Yi Zhao's homegrown Doomsday game exploded across the gaming community and topped the discussion charts. Players erupted in frustration, calling the game brutal. One complained that after a full day of play his hands ached. He was only level 2, and he had already died 3 times. If he kept dying his stats would reset. Gamers blamed the developers for the punishing difficulty and demanded cheats. When someone supposedly hit level 10 in a single day, accusations of hacking flew. Forums filled with trash talk and claims that the game was unplayable without cheats. On its first day, Doomsday triggered mass player deaths. Many logged out with severe physical symptoms and were rushed to hospitals. Later, some survivors developed organ failure. Governments responded by issuing warnings against entering the game. He scoffed at multiple nations banning Doomsday, dismissing them as weaklings and taunting that when the game fully merged with reality, everyone would suffer. A caller demanded that Yi Zhao come to Northwa Hospital immediately, bring food for Zhou Hong, and pay his bills. In exchange, the caller promised to pretend nothing had happened before. He cursed, realizing he had forgotten about that lunatic and berated himself for not blocking her sooner. Someone reacted in disbelief that Yi Zhao had not contacted them all this time, questioning whether he would come now simply because they had suddenly called. Another insisted he would never refuse. His love ran deep, ingrained to the bone, and once called he would come running. Hospital staff announced that the patient in room 17 could be discharged early but asked that the bill be settled first, then inquired why the early discharge. The hospital warns that it is overwhelmed with organ failure patients caused by playing a game called Doomsday, and beds are running out. A patient erupts in anger and disbelief, demanding clarification, short on beds, and accusing the staff of implying that the lives of the poor are worthless. Staff insist this is a special situation and beg for understanding, asking patients to settle their bills and free beds by day's end. Yenran keeps arguing that the game isn't simple and plans to be discharged so she can keep playing. When asked if she can pay, she turns to a companion for help with the hospital bill, confessing she has no money because Yishao withheld her allowance this month. Someone reacts with astonishment, doesn't Yishao give her 200,000 every month for living expenses? Yenran shrugs that she doesn't know, dismisses his cash as filthy, questions whether spending can buy her affection, and admits she feels sick even looking at him. A companion tells Yenran to message Yishao again for money, explaining she's planning to start a doomsday gaming studio. The amount would be insignificant to him but vital to them. She reassures Yenran that once he arrives she'll flatter him a little and he'll obediently hand over the money. A notification chimes, 7:59, time is nearly up. She groans as the deadline hits, it's time to enter the game. With a resigned breath she launches into the virtual world. The game places them in Novice Village number 9527. One player scolds a barely awake companion for already summoning them, quipping that the early frog gets the worm. They tell Old Hui they must level up quickly and escape this novice village. An urgent recruitment notice flashed across the level 1 training area. 3 slots open, a healer was needed, no gaming newbies allowed. An elite party was forming, only players level 2 and above could apply. Rumors buzzed that Yishao had reached level 10 in a single day, and that explosive rise was drawing a swarm of newcomers. The crowd erupted at the revelation of a level 10 prodigy and a leaderboard leader. Voices speculated how he had advanced so fast and begged to join him, some flirting openly, others pleading to be carried through the content. A few jeered at Yixiao's masked avatar, pointing out that his level couldn't be hidden and sneering at the idea he could conceal his strength. Amid the commotion, someone fell silent, panicking inwardly about what to do next. The crowd surged after the pro, convinced he knew the quickest places to grind. They agreed to shadow him closely, running hard to stay within his weight. Shouts urged everyone not to slow down, move faster or the lead would get away. They were stunned by how many players had taken off in pursuit. Doubt crept in as they chased. Ahead lay the level 10 trial zone, a gauntlet of monsters that would tear them apart. The risk was obvious, entering without preparation meant certain defeat. Whispers turned to alarm at the thought of Yishao tackling the trial alone. No one believed he could or should face it by himself, doing so would be suicide. At last they lost the tailing crowd. Relief spread, those followers were sensible enough not to dare come this far. He confirmed he had arrived and pointed out the exact spot where the trial began. A veteran stepped forward and warned the youngster that this place was no place for him. He greeted the elder and announced he had come to start the advancement trial. The guard, surprised, asked if he had really reached level 10 so quickly and demanded to know where his team was. He stated he intended to do the trial solo and did not need a team. The guard cut in with the usual warning, even on normal difficulty, entering alone was essentially a death sentence. He waved off the caution, insisting he still had plenty of life to spare. The elder sighed, dismissing him as nothing more than another reckless kid. He skimmed the difficulty options and chose the abyss, confident that attempting the trial alone would be fine despite the escalating dangers listed. The advancement trial began with the system confirming the abyss difficulty, and observers froze in disbelief when they realized he intended to tackle abyss solo. Voices around him pointed out that he was only level 10 and warned against soloing abyss, but he bristled at the doubt, remembering a previous run when, even in bronze gear and with an elite team, he had nearly been wiped out because he had to carry Qin Yenran. This time he moved forward with a single-minded resolve. He wanted revenge. He called Little Gray to his side, and the beast answered with a sharp, eager bark. Confident in his companion, he reminded everyone that Little Gray was a mythical gray beast and not to be underestimated. Sensing movement in the shadows, he warned everyone to stay alert as something approached. A mutated savage snow wolf emerged, a level 10 abyss monster with staggering durability and strength, its abilities unknown but described as capable of total destruction. Once it locked onto a target, it felt like death itself was coming. The onlookers reacted with stunned alarm. People were shocked that a mutated snow wolf appeared immediately with such massive HP, even elite classes would struggle. He barked an order for Little Gray to strike. The creature unleashed a devastating breath attack, an overwhelming, draconic force that carved huge chunks out of health and staggered the fighters with brutal, split damage. The snow wolf surged into a berserk frenzy, its behavior growing wildly aggressive. A world-shaking roar rolled through the chamber, amplifying the sense of imminent catastrophe. A stun effect hit briefly, and the beast yelped and recoiled as the clash intensified. Successive blows tore into the wolf, each hit shaving hundreds off its vitality as it howled in pain. The system confirmed the victory. The mutated savage snow wolf had been defeated, a hard-fought triumph announced to all. Experience notifications chimed as Little Gray surged through multiple levels in one encounter, leaping up to level 4 instantly, an exhilarating reward that drew cheers at the sudden, spectacular growth. The creature registered as Little Gray, an azure sky dragon of mythical grade, shown at level 5 over 60 with 50% progress. Its base attributes were uniformly high, each stat at 700. As the king of dragons, it naturally countered magic. It could silence spells and unleash a devastating spirit magic attack that struck the two nearest enemies for 500% spirit damage and sealed their magic for 5 seconds, with no MP cost and a 30-second cooldown. He gaped in disbelief at the bonus, plus 50 to every stat per level. Mythical beasts grew insanely fast, and this one had already unlocked an absurdly broken skill. The drops displayed as a blood wolf fang dagger and a snow wolf bow, both dark gold grade with unidentified effects. He asked Old Hui what had dropped. Old Hui confirmed 2 dark gold items. It was no surprise, mutated bosses handed out insanely good loot. He laughed aloud, exhilarated. This was incredible. It felt so much better than his last life. The readout identified an abyssal tiger, demonized, level 10, 8000 HP and 8000 MP, strength 400, constitution 800, agility 300, spirit 500. Its passive and active skills were unknown. The description warned it was a twisted creature born from the abyss whose power was overwhelming. If it targeted someone, death would soon follow. He froze, stunned to realize it was a demonized monster. He shouted an order, sending Little Gray into action. Half an hour later, he was spent and regretted soloing the fight. Exhaustion clawed at his legs as if they might give out. He had already looted several items and hoped to sell them for a tidy sum upon returning to the city. Among the finds were a spiked tiger shield of gold grade and a pitch-black one-handed sword of dark gold rarity, both still waiting to be appraised. Someone objected to the idea of retreating. Ahead lay the trial boss, and they intended to challenge it. One member declared they had come specifically to take the boss down. Another, incredulous, pointed out that despite all their recent kills Xiao Hui was only level 7 and questioned whether Xiao Hui could possibly handle the boss. Reassurance followed. In a past life the speaker's abyss trial had a final boss no higher than lord level, and now Xiao Hui was already capable of defeating 2 demonic monsters with ease. Confidence in Xiao Hui's strength steadied the group's resolve. Moreover, they reasoned, with the combined support of the team the lord-level boss would fall as effortlessly as slicing vegetables. He told Old Hui that today he would demonstrate what it meant to be a pro and urged them to move out. Another voice muttered that he sounded increasingly unreliable, betraying a flicker of doubt amid the bravado. A system-like announcement declared that the adventurer had fallen into the abyss. He shrugged it off with a scoff, reacting with a casual, "The abyss. So what?" In his head, an alarm blared that the area was extremely dangerous and demanded immediate escape. Yishao remembered that in his past life he had been a man of honor, consumed by love and emotion, but in this life he had become the Abyss Envoy, wielding an apocalyptic, unrivaled power and identifying himself as Yishao. He urged himself on, eager to surrender completely to the Abyss and embrace its power without reservation. The creature was a king-ranked Abyss Wanderer at level 10, an unnerving blend of near-zero physical strength and agility but immense constitution and spirit. Its true health was inscrutable, and it felt like a being born of the abyss that would return to it. One of them demanded to know where the supposed lord-level enemy had gone, baffled that what had clearly been a lord-level boss in his memory now appeared downgraded to a king-level foe. He observed that the creature's huge spirit pool made it a pure magic-based threat. With strength and agility at 0 it lacked normal attack damage and was painfully slow, yet any successful hit would be fatal. He warned the youngster in no uncertain terms that if he died, he would not bother cleaning up the corpse. He stressed that a king-level boss was no joke and ordered Xiao Hui not to use skills recklessly but to follow his commands to survive. He told Xiao Hui that the giant was slow and to keep changing positions, avoiding a prolonged fight, while the beast roared and the ground trembled beneath its presence. He urged Xiao Hui on, insisting that circling the creature continuously was the right tactic. He laughed and taunted the group to prevent the creature from casting its abilities, making disruption their immediate priority. He confirmed the plan: hold firm and steadily wear the giant down through careful, sustained pressure. Suddenly someone froze, noting that the wanderer had stopped moving. A chill ran through them as they realized something felt off and the creature might be watching them. They realized the wanderer's stillness suggested it was focusing on them, and dread filled the air as they wondered what was coming next. One voice barked at them to dodge immediately, while another scoffed that such an obvious warning needed no repetition. Panic erupted as they realized the thing was about to kill them. Fear and urgency spiked in an instant. A single player screamed that the creature was targeting only them, desperately begging Xiao Hui to hurry and save them as terror overwhelmed their voice. He could barely hold on any longer, his voice edged with desperation. A sharp cry escaped him. The beast answered with a thunderous roar. He snapped that if the creature didn't die soon he'd collapse from all the running, and pleaded that next time they avoid dragging him into such a dangerous place. A series of system chimes announced the Abyss trial's completion. The trial had been passed, his beast Xiao Hui had reached level 10, and, as the first adventurer to clear the Abyss, he was granted a reward that boosted all his attributes by 5. He taunted old Hui for acting like a coward, bewildered that someone who claimed not to fear death would bolt so desperately. He exhaled in relief that it was finally over and immediately turned to inspect what items had dropped. A system broadcast declared that Yi Xiao of the Dacian nation had completed the Abyss trial, becoming the first adventurer in history to do so and earning the legendary title Abyss Envoy. Everyone reacted in stunned disbelief, questioning what the Abyss trial even was and realizing this was a global first clear. People gasped that the world rankings now listed a globally top-ranked player from their Dacian nation. Only his name appeared on the leaderboard, and officials declared him extraordinary. They ordered Xiao Qi to investigate. Xiao Qi reported the player registered in beginner village number 9527 and, based on analysis, was likely from Jiang City. Someone barked a sharp order to dispatch agents to Jiang City at once, and the command was acknowledged. They were stunned that someone had already reached level 10 on the second day, and even more shocked to learn he came from the same beginner village as them. Yanran insisted that if they could recruit the pro player and form a team, they would shoot to fame. She pictured someone like Yi Xiao, a wealthy second-generation heir, having to look up to them. She scoffed at the notion that a mere game couldn't elevate them to the top of life and urged everyone to trust her judgment. One of them reminded Yanran that he had asked her to contact Yi Xiao to join the game and help them level up, stressing that Yi Xiao was rich and an expert gamer. Yanran refused point-blank to make the approach, saying she wasn't that shameless and that if he wanted to try, he should go ahead. He then pressed her about how she planned to cover her living expenses this month. Yanran argued that teaming with this big shot would make them wealthy. She predicted that even someone like Jiang Han, another affluent second-generation figure, would end up admiring them. When a companion questioned whether relying on a game could really bring them to life's pinnacle, she dismissed the doubt and again demanded trust in her judgment. Another reminder came that he had asked her to contact Yi Xiao and recruit him to help them level up, noting again that Yi Xiao was both rich and a skilled player. She declared she couldn't be bothered to contact him and wasn't that desperate. If he wanted to pursue it, he should. He returned to the same point and asked how she intended to cover this month's living expenses. One of them told Zhou Hong to stop bringing up Yi Xiao, pointing out how rare it was for them to have any time alone together. The speaker admitted they had never played before and begged to be taught, and the group agreed to focus first on figuring out how to level up. They stared in disbelief. After all that effort, the drop amounted to nothing more than a single fragment. He discovered a fragment of an abyssal stone, its grade unknown and officially unidentifiable. The shard looked alien, and he realized that in his previous life he had never seen anything like it. He decided to postpone getting the fragment appraised. Having passed the trial, leaving the beginner's village and reaching the main city was far more important, so he steeled himself and moved on. Others reacted in stunned disbelief. Someone had actually solo cleared the trial, and at abyss difficulty no less. Shock gave way to urgency as they demanded immediate passage to the main city. Nobody wanted to linger in the beginner's village. An attendant answered promptly, acknowledging the request and beginning the arrangements without hesitation. Officials addressed him with formal respect, congratulating him on passing the trial and issuing a guide token that granted unrestricted entry to and exit from the main city, a courteous, official recognition of his achievement. Because he had cleared the abyss-level advancement trial, he was also awarded an epic badge of valor, a commemorative, high-tier item that marked the feat and acknowledged his status. The Badge of Valor was an epic emblem, the Empire's highest honor and proof of a true hero, normally reserved for those who survived the Inferno-level trial. It enhanced his basic attributes, lent a boost to his presence, and held a potent passive. When his health fell to a critical point it temporarily increased his strength. In short, it was rare, powerful, and well worth having. He urged Little Gray and Old Hui to keep pace as they set off together, excitement and purpose driving them toward the city. They headed for Windleaf Main City, the sprawling gates and bustling streets looming ahead as the next stage of their journey. A notification chimed, announcing entry into Windleaf Main City. He took in the unexpected quiet. This was Windleaf Main City. In his previous life the job transfer square had been packed with over 100 people. Coming early really did make all the difference. He urged them onward, insisting they needed to find Beastmaster Gyudol. Someone wondered aloud why they would seek a beastmaster when he was already a beast tamer. He only chuckled and promised they would see soon enough. They found their target, a sign and a figure marking the presence of Beastmaster Gyudel. Bowing respectfully, he asked his mentor for a job transfer. The mentor brusquely told him to find someone else if he wanted a transfer and not to bother him. He persisted, declaring he sought the hidden class transfer to Beast Whisperer and that no one else was suited for it. Gyudel snapped that not just anyone could become a Beast Whisperer and demanded proof of strength. Go to the outskirts and bring back 100 eyes taken from demon wolf cubs. A notification confirmed that Gyudel had issued the quest titled Eyes of the Demon Wolves, instructing him to defeat elite Gale demon wolves on the outskirts and return with 100 eyes. Gyudel scoffed in disbelief that anyone knew about the hidden class quest and declared he would not waste his time killing 100 elite monsters. Someone sneered that he was a useless fool and ordered him away if he could not even handle that task. He countered that they had misunderstood. He did not intend to slaughter demon wolves. Instead, he produced an item that, he claimed, should be enough to prove his strength. A ripple of astonishment passed through the crowd as they saw the item and realized what it was, an epic badge of valor. Indeed, it was an epic badge of valor, and disbelief spread among the onlookers. They could not believe someone so young had already cleared an advancement trial, not merely the Inferno level but, even more shockingly, the Abyss level. He stared in disbelief at the Abyss level rating and demanded to know how many people had been on the team. The answer came quietly, only one, just himself. Someone laughed and admitted they had known all along. From the first glimpse they had sensed an extraordinary talent in him, a lone dragon among ordinary men. He was incredulous. Did they mean from the moment they saw him? He remembered being insulted as a useless fool not long before and wondered how this person could reverse his judgment faster than turning a page. He asked if that meant he could transfer to the Beast Whisperer class. The reply was affirmative, with one small condition: they wanted to see what kind of beast could survive an Abyss-level trial. He accepted the challenge without hesitation. Everyone froze at the revelation, a god-tier beast, and a dragon hatchling at that. The confirmation only deepened their shock. Onlookers were awestruck. Some admitted they had never imagined witnessing a god-tier beast in their lives and called it a dream creature. One voice worried about the master's reaction, but another urged calm, insisting there was no need to get so worked up. Then came a warning: he might not be allowed to transfer to Beast Whisperer after all. Confusion followed, and the explanation was blunt: Beast Whisperer was not worthy of a god-tier beast. Instead, they would introduce him to the Royal Chief Beast Tamer. A referral letter was produced and handed over, complete with an address. He was told to seek out the Chief Beast Tamer there. That man would give the definitive answer. The sudden turn of fortune left them all astonished. The system notification chimed, announcing that he had unlocked a hidden class quest called Dragon's Whisper. The prompt directed him to travel to the royal city to find the Royal Chief Beast Tamer, signaling a rare and momentous opportunity. They told him he was incredibly fortunate to qualify for a hidden class, but reminded him the Royal Chief Beast Tamer was stationed in the distant royal city. Besides, those around him had other obligations to handle before they could set out. He asked what things were and urged the other to follow him, promising they would find out. He added that he needed to finish another hidden quest. The companion wondered aloud how he knew about so many hidden quests, incredulous at his apparent knowledge. He reacted with disbelief at the mention of 400, warning that selling oneself was unthinkable and insisting the other did not understand. She was Lady Shirelle, the wealthy and beautiful widow of the former city lord. A voice ordered them to halt and demanded to know who they were, cutting through the moment with authority. Someone addressed Lady Shirelle with respect, noting the perpetual sorrow in her expression and offering to help if there was a problem. She admitted she had indeed lost a personal item and pleaded with the young man that if he could find it, she would be deeply grateful. A notification informed him that Lady Shirelle had issued a request to retrieve a beautiful flower, another hidden quest. He reassured the lady and vowed to handle the task. Someone again shouted for them to stop and demanded their identity, interrupting their movements. Another person respectfully addressed Lady Charlie, remarking that sorrow always clouded her face and asking if she had encountered difficulties and needed assistance. She confirmed that she had lost a personal item and again implored the young man, saying she would be deeply grateful if he could recover it. A system prompt announced receipt of Lady Shirelle's request to bring her a beautiful flower, marking it as a hidden quest. He told the beautiful lady to rest assured and took the matter on himself. He mused that the flower the lady sought should be in the garden or beyond the city walls and questioned why they were wandering through town, frustrated by the detour. Another voice retorted that she was not searching for an ordinary flower and demanded whether the other actually knew where a special flower could be found. He revealed that the flower was right there. At the shop, the proprietor noticed a distinguished guest from afar and politely asked what they would like to buy. A passerby stared at the tool shop in disbelief, wondering if a beautiful flower could really be found there. He questioned the owner, unsure and mentioning he'd heard the shop sold treasure boxes. The shopkeeper praised the stranger's sharp eye and explained that the treasure boxes could contain wonders, from prehistoric dragon bones to legendary great staffs, and then asked what price range the buyer had in mind. The buyer insisted on only the most expensive option. The shopkeeper produced the highest grade box from the shop, naming the price at 10,000 gold coins each and warning that a single box would not be enough. The buyer declared they would take every box available, prompting the shopkeeper to react in stunned disbelief at the idea of someone buying them all. The buyer repeated the demand, loudly insisting on buying every single box and ordering them opened immediately. The shopkeeper, exasperated, reluctantly began to comply. When they opened the first box, it revealed a bronze-grade dual-bladed battle axe. More boxes were opened to reveal useful consumables, large healing potions and bread that could increase size. Half an hour later, the exhausted shopkeeper told his honored guest that, out of the 100 treasure boxes, only one remained and urged him to open it. The buyer murmured with mounting hope that this time it had to be something special, then trailed off in anticipation. When the final box was opened, everyone reacted with astonishment. It truly contained a beautiful flower, a stunning blossom whose purpose was unknown and whose appearance left the room silent. Someone called urgently to Lao Hui, telling him it was time to go. Amid frantic warnings of danger, she turned to Lise and asked, with uneasy curiosity, whether anyone would truly find that flower for her. Lise reassured the lady confidently, saying that with her charm and luck, failure was unlikely. A servant hurried in to announce that a young man stood outside requesting an audience and claiming he had brought the very flower the lady had requested, which left everyone stunned. The lady realized, with a mixture of disbelief and wonder, that someone had actually found the flower for her. The servant presented the young man to the lady, asking him to confirm that he truly had the flower she sought, while the lady stared, hopeful and incredulous. He urgently appealed to the genuinely beautiful lady, asking her to take a look. She gasped in wonder, insisting it truly was the beautiful flower she had searched for so long, and that today she apologized for her rudeness, admitting she was overwhelmed, then thanked the young man for his immense help and asked what reward he wanted, money or rare artifacts. He replied that neither money nor artifacts interested him, which left her surprised. Because he refused money or artifacts, she declared that she had no choice but to offer herself as his reward. Onlookers murmured in disbelief, stunned that she was serious in broad daylight and wondering who could possibly handle such a situation. He insisted that she had misunderstood, then registered a brief surprise at her reaction. He clarified that all he needed was her help securing a citizen's status. A soft chime announced that Lady Shirley's favorability had risen by 20 due to the noble deed and outstanding charm. Someone chuckled, calling him a rascal and noting that all he wanted was citizenship. It was too easy. She instructed Eliza to prepare the papers and the seal, and Eliza complied. Then he added another request. He wished to purchase property in Windleaf City and settle down. She reacted with mild surprise at the idea of buying property, asking if he no longer wanted to wander and remarking that settling down was a stable choice. She understood the desire to acquire real estate but cautioned that the West District he had his eye on wasn't exactly bustling, asking if he was sure about that location. He addressed her respectfully, affirming his certainty and requesting her help in making the necessary connections, expressing deep gratitude. She agreed to arrange for someone to contact the West District real estate agents and thanked him. A man snapped at him, calling him a brat and demanding to know why he wasn't investing in the prosperous East District. He accused the younger man of deliberately taking a loss, insisted that wealth wasn't built that way, and dismissed whatever knowledge the young man claimed to have. They told him he wouldn't understand. Soon Windleaf City would be attacked by strange creatures. 100 would fall under the assault of powerful beings, even the current city lord might die in battle, and most of the East District would be destroyed. They argued the West District, being sparsely populated, would draw fewer monsters and suffer the least damage. In time it would become the most functional and valuable area of Windleaf City. The speaker laughed confidently, insisting there was no way they could make a losing investment. A clerk informed Lord Nightshaw that the real estate contracts had been finalized. He had acquired 340 residential units and 184 commercial properties, totaling 1.2 billion gold coins, and asked when he would like to make payment. Nightshaw could hardly believe he had secured so much for what felt like only $1 billion, a steal, and said he could pay immediately. The clerk said it had been a pleasure doing business and handed over the citizenship document. Nightshaw looked at it in surprise, wondering whether he had already become a citizen of Windleaf City. The clerk corrected him. This was not just Windleaf City citizenship but first-class citizenship of the Dragon Phoenix Empire. Nightshaw reacted in stunned disbelief at the notion of being a citizen of the Dragon Phoenix Empire. Those nearby erupted in astonishment, noting that even many powerful warlords lacked first-class citizenship in the Dragon Phoenix Empire. They declared he had hit the jackpot and began to speculate, could Madame actually be of royal descent? He protested that he couldn't be royalty, then admitted that it explained Madame's noble, regal bearing. He then asked Madame whether she knew the royal beast tamer. He asked if she meant Uncle Stir and why she was searching for him. She admitted, frankly, that her real goal was to learn everything she could about the beast tamer profession and the missions tied to it. He explained that Uncle Stir was likely in the imperial capital but warned that the man was eccentric and unpredictable. He promised to try to contact him on her behalf. Overcome with gratitude, the man told the beautiful Madame he did not know how to repay her and felt he could offer nothing more than his sincerest kiss. She gave a soft giggle and asked him not to call her Madame anymore, insisting he use Sophia instead. He immediately complied, addressing her as beautiful Sophia. The game announced that her charm had increased Madame Shirelli's favorability by 20 points, and a cascade of system notifications followed. Knight Zayad had been granted first-class citizenship in the Dragon Empire, unlocking the prestige rankings and the leaderboard. He had also successfully acquired real estate, which opened the regional housing system, and all Great Xia players gained an extra hour of daily play time. Amid those mechanical updates, one voice mocked the player fawning over her, sarcastically asking if he had sold his looks, and jeering at old Hui, delighting in seeing him irritated and powerless before laughing aloud. Finally, celebratory chimes marked that the player had reached level 11 and that his beast companion, Little Grey, had also advanced to level 11. A system chime announced that Knight Xiao had been granted first-class citizenship in the Dragon Phoenix Empire. The prestige leaderboard had been unlocked and players could finally check the rankings. The same notice confirmed Knight Xiao's recent real estate purchase and the activation of the Great Xia regional housing system. As a final effect, all Great Xia players received an extra hour of daily play time. The crowd reacted in stunned disbelief: first-class citizenship, a housing system, and an extra hour of game time. It felt unreal and wildly over the top. One player swore and demanded to know what first-class citizenship even meant, fretting about their own rank and imagining they must be third-class. They muttered that being a nobody in real life was bad enough, now the game had put them in the same position. Frustration turned to blame. What were the developers thinking? Another voice cut in, tired of the complaints, snapping that nobody even knew who the developers were. Someone gasped at the news. Knight Xiao had already reached level 11 and become a first-class citizen, an impressive leap. Others agreed it was remarkable, though one player couldn't help thinking the name sounded odd. A teammate sighed, imagining how different things would be if a top player like Knight Xiao led their group. With that kind of leadership, they reckoned they'd already be at level 4 or 5. That thought landed with a sting of reality, because in their current state they still struggled to kill even a single slime. Another player responded sharply, reading annoyance in the earlier tone. Were they dissatisfied with the team? They accused the quiet member of doing nothing while gaining levels simply by tagging along, and then suggested, bluntly, that if they were unhappy they could leave. Panicked, the quiet player tried to defuse things, insisting it had been a misunderstanding and that their friend hadn't meant it that way. They apologized, then abruptly declared they'd leave, casting the exit off with a sharp, careless, "Who cares?" Zhou Hong announced they were leaving and then snapped at Yanran for lingering, mocking her by saying that just because she was a little pretty she thought she could behave like a princess. One of them complained that now it was only the two of them and wondered how they were supposed to level up. She reminded the other that she had promised to help but had failed to defend her when everyone insulted her, and she demanded to know whether the other even cared. The other conceded, admitting she was wrong, then asked whether Yanran had contacted Knight Xiao to play Apocalypse with them, protesting that Knight Xiao always contacted her first and questioning why she should be the one to reach out. Reluctantly setting aside her pride for once, she agreed to do it and urged the other to message Knight Xiao to ask for help leveling. Since it was getting late, she said she would consider the request and would message him after logging off. She responded that she would be waiting for good news, confirmed they would see each other tomorrow, and then logged off. She thought Knight Xiao's habit of throwing money around was a bit crude but allowed that she couldn't completely blame him, deciding to give him one more chance. Resolving to take the initiative, she decided she would message him one more time. She messaged Knight Xiao saying she was playing a game called Apocalypse and urging him to hurry and buy the equipment, then help Zhou Tao and her level up. She even teased that if he could get her onto the ranking board she might consider being his girlfriend, asking rhetorically whether he was touched. She hit send, pleased with herself for being generous, and decided she would forgive the other this time. 5 minutes later she sat waiting and wondered why Knight Xiao still hadn't replied. She told Knight Xiao she was playing a game called Apocalypse and urged him to hurry and buy the equipment, then help Zhou Hong and her level up. She teased that if he could get her onto the ranking board she might consider being his girlfriend, testing whether he was moved. A notification then revealed Knight Xiao had enabled friend verification and she was not on his friend list, so she had to send a request. When she checked again, she discovered he had actually deleted her from his friends list, and indignation flared. She erupted at Night Xiao, declaring that from that day forward they were finished. She warned him that if he had any dignity he should never come begging to her like a dog, and vowed she would never forgive him even if he knelt. There would be no reconciliation. In Windleaf City she looked toward the eastern district and imagined how soon her western district would flourish in the same way. She confirmed with a sharp glance that this was the place. The shop made its policy clear, it only appraised silver-grade equipment and above. Anyone with bronze gear was advised to seek appraisal outside the city. Someone asked whether the shop could handle a dark gold tier appraisal. The item, a night pendant accessory, registered as dark gold grade but remained unappraised. When they realized it was truly dark gold, the group reacted in stunned disbelief. An attendant assured the customer that if the pendant was indeed dark gold, the shop owner would take the appraisal personally to ensure success. The customer cut through the reassurance and demanded to know the success rate. The appraiser introduced himself as a gold-tier professional with high skill and over an 80% success rate, but warned that dark gold appraisals cost 100 gold coins each. The customer dismissed the price and ordered him to start appraising. There were several other dark gold pieces to process. Onlookers muttered that the customer was loaded and urged haste because they were in a rush. The appraiser acknowledged and prepared to begin. He found a night pendant at level 10, a dark gold relic whose rarity and power were immediately obvious. It boosted spirit and strength by 40 points each and reduced incoming dark attribute damage by 20%, a defensive edge that made the pendant feel exceptionally valuable. He stared at the new numbers in disbelief. The stats were outrageously strong. A small, approving murmur escaped him as he absorbed the scale of the upgrade and urged himself to press on. The player, Yi Xiao, was shown as a unique class god of wealth and beast tamer at level 11 with 1.2% progress. His basic vitals read HP 990, MP 2640, and full hunger. His core attributes, Strength 142, Constitution 99, Spirit 264, and Agility 110, paired with special stats like Luck 65 and Charm 68, made the improvement painfully obvious. He noted to himself that his stats had grown considerably. With that surge in power, he realized he could now handle fights on his own. He wondered briefly what to do next, remembered that Sophia had sent no word, and decided they should go level up in Grey Mist Valley. He set his mind to move out immediately. He hesitated for a moment at the entrance, recognizing the valley as a zone meant for level 20 monsters, but then steeled himself and confirmed they would proceed. They encountered gray hyenas around level 21. The level gap hid their full stats, but their nature was clear, creatures warped by the gray mist, more violent and bloodthirsty than before, attacking any unfamiliar presence and always aiming for weak points. A reminder echoed in his head to protect vulnerable spots, and he grimaced at the sight. There were far too many of them at once, a disgusting swarm. He shouted a terse command to his companion, ordering Xiao Hui to strike without hesitation. Their assault landed with brutal force, massive damage numbers flashed, including a devastating Dragon King's breath that dealt 5,000 damage. 2 hyenas fell under the onslaught, each death granting a tidy amount of experience and reinforcing how lethal their combined attacks had been. He noted that these monsters were high-level and aggressive, charging automatically at intruders. It made the spot perfect for steady farming. He teased his companion with a grin, calling the little brat someone who clearly knew how to enjoy himself. He laughed aloud, thinking back on his days of struggle and feeling a warm satisfaction now that life had finally turned for the better. 2 hours later, system chimes announced that both the player and his beast had reached level 12. He laughed aloud, relieved and a little proud to have finally leveled up. He calculated that at this pace, reaching level 20 would take only a few days. Then something on the screen caught his attention, pulling him out of his reverie. It was a beginner fireball scroll, an item that would instantly teach the fireball spell when used. He frowned at the idea of a beast tamer casting fire, finding the image a little absurd. Deciding that more skills couldn't hurt, he learned the spell. The system confirmed the acquisition at 0 proficiency. The fireball condensed mana into a quick spirit-based blast that dealt about 150% magic damage, with a 1-second cast, a moderate mana cost, and a short cooldown. He announced confidently that he would demonstrate his new fireball. The damage, however, was laughably low. Onlookers mocked him mercilessly, calling the result humiliatingly weak. Worse, they joked, than his pet's own foul little tricks. Noting the late hour, he planned to log off in 2 hours. The in-game clock read 12497. It was the 3rd day since Apocalypse had launched, which meant the open beta was about to begin. By then, everyone in the Empire over 16 would be forcibly drawn into the dangerous game, and the world was on the brink of a drastic transformation. Sudden tremors and alarmed messages made people think it was an earthquake. Notifications about people entering the game appeared, and confusion rippled through the crowd. He wondered if it was some midnight prank, But the evidence pointed to something far more serious. He exploded in disbelief. One moment he had been soaking in a bathhouse, and the next he found himself inside a game. He swore, remembered the skewers he had been eating and groped for them in vain, wondering if he was dreaming. Shock gave way to a wild laugh as he realized he might have been transported to another world. He declared himself the chosen one and gaped at familiar faces, surprised to see old Lee and even more astonished that old Wang, who had been dancing at the square, was here too. Another man voiced the same confusion, bewildered that he had been logged into the game automatically. He explained he had been out for late-night snacks with Wang Wan and the others when, without warning, he was pulled into the game. The situation felt surreal and inexplicable. Someone noted they were not the only ones forced into the game and remarked that the apocalypse really was altering the world. He then turned to Yen Ran, asking whether she had contacted Yishao to beg for help leveling them up. He sneered that Yishao could go to hell and insisted that even if Yishao pleaded, he would not care. Instead, he planned to find the legendary Yishao inside the game and have him power level the group. Those nearby reacted in stunned disbelief, questioning whether he truly knew Yishao, the top-ranked player. She admitted she had not contacted him yet, but boasted with a grin that her beauty had always made men unable to resist her, implying she expected to succeed when she tried. A somber explanation followed. Every citizen of the Xia Empire over the age of 16, regardless of gender, had been forcibly logged into the game Apocalypse. The logout option had vanished completely, leaving players trapped with no way to leave on their own. He explained that each player's spawn point in the game matched their real-world location. The closer people lived to one another, the closer their starting points would be, and each starting village corresponded to a specific region. He warned grimly that if a player died in the game, they would be unable to return to the real world. With everyone forcibly dumped into the game, a cold certainty spread that something was seriously wrong with this world. Players scrambled for answers and all eyes turned to Yishao, the top-ranked player. They wondered if he knew how to log out. After all, he was the only one who had shot up levels so fast during the beta. His meteoric progress felt impossible, prompting whispers that he must know something others did not. His speed looked like cheating to some, and a few even speculated he might be a GM. Determined, they agreed, they had to find him. At Beginner Village 001, there was still no way to log out. Panic tightened as the realization sank in, they might be permanently trapped inside the game. A player named Budong Russian declared the situation grave and pressed the crowd for any news on Yishao, the game's top-ranked figure. There had been no contact. Reports said Yishao had already reached level 12 and left the beginner village, even though no one was supposed to be able to leave yet. Hope shifted to Chen Kuang as people asked whether he could do anything to help. They noted Chen Kuang appeared to be only level 4 and questioned how that could be, since he had once been a beta tester. Conflicting accounts claimed he had led a team and ground his way up to level 42 despite the game's brutal challenges, while most other players lingered around level 2. News from Jiang City only deepened the astonishment. Yishao was clearly not ordinary. People resolved to spread the word and vowed to find him at all costs. A new message summoned Yishao to the Duke's Nor with news about the investigation he had been pursuing. He acknowledged the notice and immediately set off toward it. Nobody had expected word about the royal beast tamer to arrive so quickly. The sudden development sent a ripple of excitement through those who heard it. At Beginner Village 001, the logout problem remained unresolved. The fear of being trapped inside the game permanently continued to hang over everyone. The situation had escalated dangerously, and everyone was anxious. Where was Yishao, the top-ranked player, and was there any news about him? There was no contact. Yishao had already hit level 12 and left the beginner village, even though no one else was allowed to leave. They turned their attention to Chen Kuang, asking if he could do anything to help. They were confused about Chen Kuang. Some insisted he was only level 4, yet others recalled him as a beta tester and suggested he should be around level 42 after leading a team and grinding. The Apocalypse challenge was far too brutal. Most players were still only around level 2. They marveled that Jiang City harbored someone like that. Yishao was clearly no ordinary player. Urgency spread through them. They had to find him at all costs and would spread the word immediately. A new message summoned Yishao to the Duke's North. There was news about the matter he had been investigating. Yishao acknowledged it and set off at once. No one had expected word about the royal beast tamer to arrive so quickly, and excitement rippled through the crowd. She greeted him warmly the moment he arrived and admitted that she had missed him. He stammered that he was there, then found himself struck by her beauty and thought how irresistible she seemed. Someone addressed the beautiful Sophia, asking if she had news about the royal beast tamer, then warned her not to hurry. Uncle Stur was traveling and could not return yet. They realized it had been a false alarm, but Sophia relayed that he had asked her to reveal how to unlock a hidden class, a task that was actually not difficult and lay within Fengyi City. He reacted with disbelief when he learned the secret was inside Phony City. He had expected a distant quest, not a treasure so close at hand, and he pressed Sophia urgently for the exact location. He hesitated, admitting the task might be difficult, then relayed Uncle Stir's report. Beyond the city, high in the mountains, a powerful dragon ruled a lair. Beneath that lair lay a hidden dungeon, and deep within its depths lay something significant. Someone else asked if he meant the cave maze. When asked if he knew the dungeon's name, he laughed nervously and claimed he had only heard rumors, but then insisted he actually knew it well. In his past life he had raided that dungeon countless times. He recalled that the only boss there had been a creepy, demonized level 80 foe, and he was stunned by talk of a dragon. Uncle Stir, he reported, was adamant. A dragon now guarded the place. In his past life it had been a demon boss. Had it been replaced this time? Undeterred, he declared he would check it out himself. Others protested. Was he really going alone? It was a level 80 zone, they warned, where even the city's elite sometimes never returned. Their concern trailed off into alarm. He reassured Sophia that he had his own methods, and then a notification arrived. Uncle Stir had supplied new intelligence, tasking them to enter an unknown dungeon and retrieve an item. His companions agreed. She had even once stolen a dragon egg, so a dungeon should be no challenge, and someone snapped at the dissenting voice, calling them an annoying frog. Another voice asserted bluntly that with the right payment, even a dragon could be felled, and praised Sister Tao as the family's unrivaled expert when it came to battling dragons. They agreed this mission required Sister Tao. Then someone spotted a Supreme Hall token and froze in surprise. How had Yi Xiao obtained such a token at only level 12? At that moment, a familiar, teasing voice asked who the cute one calling this time might be, the tone playful and expectant. Recognition flared. It was little brother Yi Xiao, and someone playfully asked if he had missed his big sister. Then, turning to Sister Tao, Yi Xiao presented a major job for her to handle. He protested at the thought of another dragon, but immediately conceded that Sister Tao was perceptive. It really was a dragon. He reacted with disbelief, asking if she bore a grudge against dragons. He reminded her that when he had stolen a dragon egg before he injured his back and was still recovering, so he refused and urged her to find someone else. She repeated the familiar offer, a reward of 2 billion gold. 2 billion, she emphasized. He refused again, explaining it wasn't reluctance but injury. He needed time to heal and could join them in a month if they weren't in a hurry, and he asked whether revealing the Holy Spirit Springs location would change their minds. She reacted with surprise and a touch of excitement, recalling that someone named Dragantia had mentioned the spring and insisting it wasn't a joke. Then she pressed him, if he truly knew the location, would he risk his life to accompany her? She accepted at once, declaring the deal done and demanding they leave immediately, asking again whether they could depart right away. She demanded the exact whereabouts of the Holy Spirit Spring. He replied that it lay in the Lost Land, and she pushed for precise coordinates. Onlookers murmured Yi Xiao's name in admiration. He truly was something else. A brief notification showed that Sophia's favorability toward him had risen, and someone wondered aloud whether he might one day become a god-tier player. They found Wang Chong outside the beginner village and shouted for him to wake up. He had been killed twice by goblins, and after reviving his body was beginning to shut down. Panicked players cried that the game could really kill people, begging for help and wanting to go home. Others told them to stop shouting, who didn't want to go home. But no one knew how to log out, and someone mentioned a player had already reached level 12, suggesting they find him and ask. Their destination was the Dragon Mountain Range. They stood in a place of uncanny beauty, and the protagonist noted inwardly that such serenity rarely meant safety. The more tranquil the setting, the more likely a hidden predator awaited. Sister Tao had been right, the area teemed with level 80 monsters. Only her temporary level boost kept them from being surrounded, so the group agreed to skirt trouble and head straight for the dungeon without picking fights. One companion asked the younger member if he truly knew the dungeon's entrance, warning that a tier 5 dragon lurked nearby and they could not afford to attract its notice. The boy reassured them they would remain concealed and pointed out that the dungeon entrance lay beneath a steep mountainside slope, then issued a blunt warning that any mistake would have consequences. When the route proved correct, he allowed himself a brief, satisfied nod. He had been right. Another member confirmed with a low voice that this was indeed the place they had been searching for. They found a beautifully crafted teleportation formation carved into the stone, but it was devoid of mana. One of them realized with concern that it could not be activated in its current state. A younger member stepped forward, volunteering to try and resolve the problem himself. An older companion asked the boy, incredulous, how he knew the method to open such an advanced formation. They were stunned when the boy actually succeeded in activating the mechanism, their disbelief turning quickly into a mix of admiration and alarm. He shrugged and laughed, claiming he had his ways, then urged everyone to hurry and follow him. The others exchanged baffled looks, whispering about how many mysterious secrets the boy might be hiding. The moment the gate opened, an ominous system warning filled the air. They had entered an extremely dangerous area called the Dark Cavern Maze, a place with only one exit and a strict time limit of 3 hours. Failure to escape would mean being trapped forever amid eerie, hostile creatures. One exasperated companion muttered to the boy, wishing he would take them somewhere safe for once. They had entered an eerie zone, and the time limit shocked them, only 3 hours. One of them recalled the last run, when the deadline had been 3 full days, and a cold suspicion settled in. Something was clearly wrong, even the allowance of time had been drastically shortened. Someone warned Yi Xiao bluntly that this mission was more dangerous than battling a Tier 5 dragon and asked if he still intended to pursue the items. At the same time another voice teased Sister Tao, reminding everyone that she was a god-tier sorcerer and asking whether she felt any fear. Sister Tao bristled at the suggestion. She scoffed at the idea of being afraid, declaring it ridiculous. She was a god-tier powerhouse, a supreme hall elder, and a top sorcerer. Why, she demanded, would she tremble before an eerie maze? They agreed and moved to hurry forward, but one of them paused to ask Sister Tao if she knew concealment magic, seeking whatever advantage they could use before proceeding. Sister Tao mocked the question, calling concealment magic a trivial, low-level spell she hadn't bothered to learn as an apprentice. Someone quickly soothed her, insisting she not be offended. All they needed was something to hide their presence and aura, and that would suffice. She dismissed it as child's play, then fell silent in surprise as the concealment took effect. Even she admitted the result exceeded expectations. A powerful Shadowborn effect enveloped them, a rare buff that effectively merged their forms with the darkness and cloaked their presence. A teammate reported the maze's inhabitants, 5 eerie monsters in total, 3 level 60 crawlers, 1 level 60 elite boss, and a single level 80 eerie. They warned everyone to be cautious. One of them then gaped and asked how Sister Tao could know such specifics, half-jokingly calling her a prophet. She answered that, in a way, she could be called that. She knew a few things because she had cleared the maze 800 times in a past life. The revelation stunned them. It was insane. When pressed for more information, she simply said there was nothing else to add. He told Sister Tao they had to slip past without drawing attention and asked her to watch his footwork. She reacted with disbelief and anger, incredulous that he would try to teach her, loudly reminding him of her higher level and boasting that she'd cleared far more mazes in her life than he'd even traveled roads. Someone addressed Master Tao and volunteered to go first, insisting that he watch closely as the men moved forward. They froze in astonishment when he slipped past a level 60 elite without being noticed. Their earlier doubt vanished and they immediately bowed to his skill, declaring him, and by extension his family, to be true masters. He warned everyone to stay ready for combat, the tension in his voice keeping them on edge. He observed that this encounter felt different from his past life, acknowledging the change as they prepared to face it. A maze guardian appeared, a Een spirit beast of an eerie nature. Its rank and attributes were initially unclear, but Sister Tao identified it as a level 100 Berserk eerie boss. Despite the high number, she judged its strength to be relatively ordinary. He chose to open the treasure chest himself, told Sister Tao to be ready to strike, and cast a powerful, absolute defensive buff over her to ensure she could withstand any sudden danger. Cautious and practical, he warned Lao Hui not to move recklessly and risk alerting the Een spirit beast, urging him instead to focus on staying safe. His eyes locked on the hidden class scroll inside the chest. He could almost claim it as his, the prize within reach. He recoiled in surprise when he realized even the treasure inside the chest was different from what he expected, the shock breaking his focus. A startled cry escaped from one of them as panic rippled through the group. A sudden frost shock erupted, a chilling attack that struck with icy force. Someone shouted for them to run and berated the frozen figure for hesitating, urgency and blame lacing the command. He urgently pleaded for Sister Tao's help, desperation clear in his voice as danger closed in. In a last-ditch move he activated a homepoint magic formation, a teleportation escape designed to pull them back to safety. Bumble was left stunned, frozen by the sudden turn of events as the scene erupted into chaos. A sheepskin scroll revealed a usable item, a cooldown stone stamped with the terrifying rank, Heaven's Doom. Its active power was enormous. It could reset the cooldown of any item regardless of rank, but then required 3 days to recharge. Everyone realized the kid was ridiculously lucky. Shock ran through the group at the sight of another Heaven's Doom rank item. If its reset effect applied to the Brutality chapter, the chapter's cooldown would drop to just 3 days, and that possibility stunned them all. They turned to Yi Xiao, anxious and uncertain, asking whether they should engage the boss or retreat. Sister Tao insisted they fight and urged everyone to go all out. Another member answered that they would unleash their full power in response. The boss erupted in a thunderous roar, a raw, bestial bellow that filled the battlefield. They exchanged worried glances as the boss's screams grew frantic, wondering if it had gone berserk and what that might mean. Panic spread when someone realized, with a curse, that the boss was summoning a dragon. They spotted the emerging form and, alarmed, urged everyone to stop standing frozen and run for their lives. Confusion and dread collided as another voice demanded what the boss's screaming meant, speculating that it was berserk and trailing off as a realization began to form. They bolted into motion, everyone pushed to flee, voices insisting there was no way to beat such a creature and complaining that it always ended with them running for their lives. One of them fumed at the absurdity. How could a beast summon a dragon? While another snapped for silence, warning that the dragon was closing in and sarcastically suggesting they might be neighbors. They screamed for the kid to move as the dragon bore down straight at him, cursing that the creature had gone berserk and seemed immune to slow effects, urging everyone to run. One person refused to flee, deciding that since the beast had gone berserk and focused on them, they would take it down first. Another retorted harshly, pointing out the dragon was level 100 while they were only level 12 and calling them an idiot. He judged that, with his cooldown stone and the brutal chapter active, it was the perfect moment to test his firepower. He thought the opponent was literally gambling with their life. He unleashed a vicious curse, shouting for the enemy to die. He stared in stunned disbelief at the pitiful damage shown, incredulous at his own luck. Then he snapped at the brat, warning that if the brat died, he wouldn't bother retrieving the corpse. The strike registered as a brutal hit, dealing 932,642 damage, and when the target's HP fell below 20%, an automatic instant death effect was triggered. System notifications flooded in. He had successfully slain the level 100 strange demonized boss, Beast. The alerts announced his level rising to 13 and his beast companion Little Grey also reaching 13. Moments later both surged to level 20 and hit the level cap, so no further leveling was possible for now. He laughed in disbelief at leaping straight to level 20 and felt exhilarated. Onlookers were stunned. An ordinary level 12 rookie had just taken down a level 100 demonized boss. The scene felt impossible. An official world announcement declared that Daxia player Yishao had slain the level 100 beast, marking the first kill of a level 100 demonized boss and awarding reputation plus 550 attribute points, and 1 Daxia Warzone point. The proclamation sent players into uproarious disbelief, with many shouting that a level 100 boss was dead, calling it outrageous and questioning whether they were even in the same game. The crowd went silent in disbelief when a level 100 boss fell for the first time. Spectators wondered if it could be humanly possible, suspected a game bug, or feared Yishao wasn't even human. Something about the scene felt unmistakably off. A player with the handle 19 erupted, half joking and half awed, begging to claim Yishao as his godfather. He admitted he rarely idolized anyone but was effectively kneeling before Yishao and calling him daddy. Others jeered at the spectacle, accusing them of shamelessness and mockingly asking if anyone still needed a father now that they were fighting over his. Suspicion spread through the crowd. This had to be cheating. Voices argued no ordinary level 12 rookie could fell a level 100 boss without hacks. Still, some shrugged that if the Daxia player secured the rewards, they didn't care about the method. It stunned people that Daxia, a nation they believed they'd long outpaced, had produced such a player, and rumors began to tie the feet to the hidden force behind Doomsday. Panic spread as the boss died, the dragon roared in fury and the cave began to collapse. One voice shouted for everyone to stop standing there and run, but another frantic thought interrupted. The loot hadn't been grabbed yet. Someone announced they had opened a portal and warned that anyone who didn't leave immediately wouldn't make it. They urged everyone to forget the loot and prioritize survival, insisting escape came first. One survivor exhaled, admitting it had been a long time since anything so thrilling had happened. They realized how close they'd come to dying and vowed to splurge later to calm their nerves, relieved that Sister Tao's portal had saved them from disaster. A character suddenly hesitated, pausing mid-action as something unseen registered in their mind. An ominous power manifested, an ability called Holy Judgment, Skyfire Dragon, whose level and attributes were unknown. The presence of that devastating, mysterious force made it clear the battle was far from over. When the name of a Holy Judgment Dragon was mentioned, he panicked and bolted, adamant he would not stay anywhere near that danger. He demanded to know why they were running, then realized the answer himself. If they didn't run now, they would actually die. Announcing he was leaving, he told them to send the Holy Spirit Springs location and his payment. He noted the charge plainly, 100 Afengya, delivered in the main city. A voice expressed disbelief and relief. He had actually managed to retrieve the item from the labyrinth. One companion praised him as amazing. He waved it off as nothing, calling the feat a piece of cake. The friend snapped back, incredulous that he would call it easy after nearly dying. With the scroll in hand, they wondered how to unlock the hidden class, only to find, upon inspection, that the parchment did not appear to be a class change scroll. Someone protested that it couldn't be a non-class changing parchment, insisting that Uncle Stir had said this very parchment would unlock hidden potential and awaken a unique class tailored to its bearer. He motioned urgently for them to follow as he hurried ahead. He admitted surprise at finding a hidden chamber in the estate, a discovery he hadn't made even in his past life. An alderman stepped forward to welcome the youth, identifying himself as Stir, the royal beastmaster the seeker had been looking for. The protagonist greeted Master Stir and explained he had come to unlock his hidden class, admitting he had thought this method of class changing had vanished from the world until now. Stir agreed to assist with the transition and asked if the seeker was ready to begin. He declared he was ready and could not wait any longer. Stir reassured him that the parchment would awaken the deepest power within and urged him to follow his heart's guidance. Another visitor addressed Master Stir, explaining they had come to change into a hidden profession and confessing surprise that anyone still walked this path, yet Stir remained to help. Given the circumstance, Stir declared he would oversee the class transfer himself and asked once more if the seeker was prepared. He declared he was ready and could no longer wait. With determined energy he took the parchment that would awaken the deepest source of his power, guided by the instruction to follow his heart. A steady voice urged him to remain calm, not to panic or resist. He swallowed his fear and accepted the command. It seemed impossible. All 5 crystal balls had been activated, and stunned murmurs spread through the crowd. Someone asked Uncle Stir if this was what he meant by a supreme class transfer. Uncle Stir confirmed it, pointing to the 5 crystal balls that orbited him as symbols of raw potential, and admitted that when he had changed his own class he had only managed to activate 3. People reeled at the realization that he had broken humanity's limits to activate all 5 crystal balls. They whispered that he might no longer be entirely human. They began to wonder whether Night Xiao was something far beyond an ordinary person. A system-like proclamation announced that the class transfer quest Whispers of the Dragon had been completed and his class had changed to the rare hidden profession Dragon Speaker. A mysterious infusion of power upgraded his class rank, pushing him past the usual limit and elevating him to the god-tier hidden profession Beast God Master. As expected from a hidden profession, his body overflowed with newfound power. He unlocked the Beast God Master class. Innate talents immediately populated his status. Divine power, LV1, had begun to forge a towering, unshakable divine body, effectively doubling his final growth attributes. Source of primordial force, LV1, showed he had fused with divine energy, granting plus 100% to spirit and plus 100% to strength. The God's Guardian set, LV1, bestowed divine insight and produced a blueprint for a beast-taming weapon, the Beast God's Claw. Beast God's Aura, LV1, baptized his tamed beasts in divine power, increasing all their attributes by 30%. Beast God's Dominion, LV1, signaled peak control over beasts, causing each tamed creature to receive 30% of his final attribute bonuses. Observers were stunned. The stats were outrageously powerful. Those watching could hardly believe it. Someone had actually unlocked the legendary Beast God Master class. The title implied mastery of the Beast God's supreme power and awarded a staggering 40 attribute points per level, warping every stat. The fact that the Guardian set even included a crafting blueprint only deepened their shock and curiosity. The blueprint described growth-type equipment that already started at epic rank. The Beast God's Claw was classified as epic. Crafting it demanded rare materials, so he realized he would have to hunt monsters relentlessly to collect everything needed. The class transfer had finally completed. The disciple thanked Master Stir, and observers watched in awe as Night Xiao revealed astonishing power. The young man had already stepped into the divine realm, his potential seeming limitless. He laughed, admitting the kid was extraordinary and declaring himself destined to reach the peak in this lifetime, yet he added that, before anything else, he had to craft the Beast God's Claw. A respectful petitioner addressed the Guardian, announcing his wish to challenge the Abyss trial. The Guardian noted that the 3 of them looked well equipped and asked which level they intended to attempt. They answered that it would be level 4. One of them declared he would go alone, opting to face the Abyss level trial solo. Onlookers reacted with surprise at yet another solo challenger for the Abyss level trial. One man grinned, saying he lived for challenges and would have no regrets, even if he died. His teammates promised to wait outside for good news, assuring him he would not be kept waiting long. A spectator clicked his tongue and remarked that these visitors from another world were truly different in their makeup. 5 minutes later, screams erupted, frantic cries for help, desperate calls for the boss, stunned questions about what had happened, terror spreading as the monsters began to mutate. Panic followed as someone cursed and shouted that the boss was seriously injured and needed a potion immediately. The grim conclusion settled in that not just anyone could solo the Abyss level trial. They were at the Great Rift, undertaking the level 20 Abyss trial. Mr. Lee, the homeroom teacher, called for attendance and asked if anyone else had logged into the game. Wang Jun reported spotting Zhou Hong and Oin Yenran and noted that most of their classmates had made it online. Lu Lin privately thanked Zhou Hong, admitting that Zhou's warning to stay in the beginner village had likely saved her life. Wang Jun echoed the gratitude and said he had warned his family after seeing news of widespread deaths in the Doomsday event. The situation was terrifying. Li Li confirmed that, thanks to Zhou Hong, their class had no casualties, but she had heard that Wang Ming from the next class had been killed by monsters on the plains. Zhou Hong downplayed it, explaining that he and Yanran had played the beta and therefore knew more than the others. Wang Jun wondered aloud about Yi Xiao, who had been missing for a while. Li Li had no idea and worried that Yi Xiao might be gone amid the deadly chaos. Wang Jun trailed off, suggesting a possibility about Yi Xiao's fate, and Li Li immediately rejected the notion, reminding everyone that Yi Xiao was supposed to be unbelievably skilled at games. One player deliberately kept their identity hidden, deciding it was safer to lie low and concentrate solely on leveling up rather than drawing attention. Someone urged Old Hui to hurry and get to work, the command sharp and impatient as action needed to start immediately. A devastating Dragon Claw strike landed, its impact quantified as 2354 and sounding like a heavy, decisive blow. The game announced 2 dark gold weapons, an enormous two-handed greatsword and a rock-shattering warhammer. Both were labeled rare and powerful, their precise effects still unidentified, radiating menace and promise. The moment drew a triumphant howl of approval and praise for Old Hui from the nearby players. The atmosphere snapped tense when someone realized what was happening. A boss was approaching, and everyone sensed the danger immediately. The Abyss Watcher presented itself like a king-tier guardian cloaked in mystery, officially only level 20, yet radiating overwhelming power and inscrutable endurance. It was the sort of boss that felt far deadlier than its listed level suggested. Old Hui urged the other player to go ahead while promising cover, but the protagonist scoffed inwardly and made it clear he didn't need anyone watching his back. They stood stunned as the boss actually died during the trial, an outcome they found impossible, especially since they had followed Yi Xiao's leveling route to the letter. Their only explanation was suspicion. If Yi Xiao had cleared the Abyss trial, he must have exploited some loophole. There was no other way, they told themselves. The system then issued an official bulletin. Yi Xiao of Grand Xia had become the first player in history to clear the level 20 Abyss trial, earning an epic reward called the Stone of Valor and a Warzone point. The formal announcement only deepened the crowd's shock. A player roared triumphantly, treating the encounter as an effortless victory and broadcasting his confidence to everyone nearby. Loot disappointed them. There was no gear, only another shard of an Abyss stone, and the anticlimax rippled through the group. They refused to accept it. Night Xiao clearing the trial overnight felt impossible. Their consensus hardened. He must have found some loophole. A special system notice followed, declaring that Night Xiao of Daxia had become the first warrior ever to conquer the level 20 Abyss trial, and that he received the same epic Stone of Valor and a Warzone point. The elevated announcement amplified disbelief into outright astonishment. Another voice crowed that the challenge had been crushed with ease, the roar underscoring a swaggering victory lap. Again the rewards underwhelmed. No equipment dropped, only a second Abyss stone fragment, leaving everyone puzzled. They compared notes. The Wanderer had yielded the first fragment, the Watcher the second. Players speculated wildly, could these shards combine into a god-tier item? Most dismissed that hope as wishful thinking. In the end, one player decided not to overanalyze things. He told himself he'd figure it out later, shrugged off the mystery, and headed back. A congratulatory message flashed across the screen, acknowledging the warrior's achievement. The system announced that the trial had been cleared and presented the reward that awaited the victor. An epic Stone of Valor appeared, a rare, immensely powerful artifact meant specifically to upgrade the Emblem of Valor, and the characters reacted in excited disbelief at the chance to enhance it. Without hesitation, they urged each other on, ready to proceed with the upgrade at once. The Emblem of Valor, now legendary, was described as the true warrior's symbol, an honor reserved for those who beat the Hell level trial and the Empire's highest distinction. Reinforced by the Stone of Valor, it became far stronger, granting a substantial flat boost to base power, increased resistance to all attributes, a charm bonus, and a potent passive. When HP fell below 30%, it temporarily raised strength and spirit by 10% for 5 minutes. They celebrated the successful transformation into a legendary emblem. He imagined himself unstoppable in the level 30 zone and fired up his companion Old Hui, urging them to move out. A system maintenance notice warned that they would be logged out soon, prompting stunned questions about whether this meant they were finally returning to reality. The announcement set off a wave of relieved excitement. Now of all times, they thought, could they really leave the game? One player longed for home and for his mother, and everyone rejoiced at the possibility of finally returning to the real world. After Daxia fell, the United States also plunged into doomsday. Experts warned that this supernatural game phenomenon would gradually spread worldwide. Falling asleep now meant being pulled into the game, Doomsday had become a reality for all of humanity. The pressing question was what would come next. Then the player known as Ferocious Tiger Unleashed died in the Abyss trial, a stark example of how terrifying an Abyss-level trial could be and what the threat might mean for ordinary players. On that day, the narrator reported, they had the privilege of speaking with high-level player Qingfeng Cueju, who shared the latest updates on Doomsday and strategies for leveling up quickly. The 000 player Qingfeng Cueju had recently led a team to clear the hard-level advancement trial during a livestream, and he promised to reveal whether dying in the game affected reality. The narrator admitted they had never heard the name Qingfeng Cueju before and found it intriguing. They resolved to see what he had to offer. When asked about being the first to clear a hard-level advancement trial and the second to pass an advancement trial after Night Xiao, Qingfeng Cueju downplayed his achievement. He said he had been lucky and clarified that he had not done it alone. His team had barely made it through. He was asked what he thought about players being automatically logged into Doomsday when they fell asleep. He noted that even officials could not explain Doomsday's existence, and emphasized that surviving inside the game was far from simple. They discovered that Night Xiao was a fellow Daxia player who had cleared the Abyss trial twice. Asked for an opinion, the top player could only concede that Night Xiao operated on a completely different level, so far beyond everyone else that even all the top-ranked players combined would stand no chance against him. An ally reacted in amazement, noting that even the combined might of the top players would be insufficient. The protagonist imagined that, with someone like Night Xiao in his ranks, he could seize absolute control over the Doomsday world. The young master ordered Fu Bo to use every available resource to dig up everything on Night Xiao. Fu Bo acknowledged the command and moved to execute the investigation at once. The game abruptly entered system maintenance and forcefully logged everyone out. A new, unsettling condition left players able to re-enter only by falling asleep, and the protagonist observed that the real-world Doomsday invasion was progressing more slowly than it had in his previous life. Seeing an opening, he decided to power level. For a beast tamer, reaching level 30 was a crucial milestone because it unlocked an extra pet slot. He dismissed hesitation and focused single-mindedly on hitting level 30 first. A location tag marked the target, the level 30 zone known as Grey Mist Valley. He commanded his beast, Old Hui, to unleash the stunning shock attack. A heavy impact sounded as the stun took hold. He cheered at the success, praising Old Hui and laughing as he watched the beast grow noticeably stronger. The chat erupted with congratulatory messages and excited praise, flooding the feed with people exclaiming how well the action had gone. Repeated notification dings confirmed the progress. Old Hui had leveled up to 24, and the protagonist had also advanced to level 24. The alerts and his delighted laughter marked another successful level gain. Observers swore as he surged through levels again. He was now twice as far ahead of the second-place player. The world rankings looked broken, and they refused to accept any explanation short of cheating. They had expected progression to slow at the top so others could catch up, but the gap only widened. The leaderboard read, Rank 1, Night Xiao, LV, 24, Rank 2, Qingfeng Cueju, LV, 10. They admitted they had never been in Night Xiao's league. One of them praised their leader's effort, acknowledging there was always someone better. They took consolation in holding second place and still controlling ranks 3 through 6. In Novice Village number 9527, the Dragon's Nest, an egg had been missing for days. Someone stared in disbelief, noting that the creature was still curled up, sleeping in a dark corner. They invoked Radiant Dragon's Judgment and Skyfire Dragon's Judgment, devastating, sacred powers whose sheer force underscored that the dragon prophet bore the fate of their race. They recoiled at the human's presence, his aura sickened them and drew visible contempt. One voice scoffed at the notion of gods intervening, insisting it was impossible for a mere human to wield such power and likening him to a lowly worm. The dragon prophet declared that he saw more than the others and was willing to entrust their race's future to this mortal. The others erupted in protest, calling the decision reckless. Panic surged as they realized there was no time left.